Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're talking about interior RV lighting, specifically how to brighten up those dark areas in your camper that never seem to get enough light. We're going to walk through the factory installed lighting in our own RV. We're going to talk about what Grand Design did very well, and then those other things that they could have done a little bit better. And then we're going to cover the supplemental lighting solutions and show you some of the products that we personally use in our own RV. Some of these have been fantastic and some are honestly just okay. We're going to share the pros and cons so that you can decide what might work best in your own situation, because honestly, finding the right lighting for an RV is about more than just brightness. Power consumption, color temperature, heat output, and even how relaxing the space feels at night can make a huge difference, especially if you spend a lot of time camping like we do. We're also going to talk about emergency lighting, what we keep in the RV and where we store it in case we ever experience a total power failure while we're camping. And finally, if you're absolutely hating your factory lights in your RV and wondering, can you replace those? Yes, you absolutely can. But there are a few really important things that you need to know before starting that project, especially when it comes to 12-volt electrical systems. Later in the video, we are going to walk through that process step by step and talk about some of the important safety precautions that you're going to need to take. So with that said, let's head out to our RV and take a look at the lighting setup. One of the things we do like are the factory installed overhead LED lights. They are super bright and light up the interior of the RV pretty well, but sometimes that light can be a little harsh, and Grand Design actually thought of that and installed a really cool feature. So this is the main switch for the overhead lights that I have on now, but if you turn that off and use the switch above instead, you can actually adjust the dimness. This is at full power, and then you can take it down and keep it pretty low. One of the drawbacks to these LED lights is that there is no way to adjust the temperature on them. So you're getting the harsh LED clinical bright lights all the time, and it doesn't matter if you use the dimmer switch or not, you're still getting that same cool shade, and I'm not a fan of that. I wish there was a way to change the temperature so that you can make it a little bit warmer and homier in here. One thing I don't like about these lights is that they appear to be yellow when they are not turned on. It kind of gives it an aged or almost not clean appearance. So another cool feature that Grand Design has given us are these reading lamps at the headboard. And if you hit the button one time, you get the blue light. The blue light's designed to light things up inside the trailer so you can navigate around without giving you the glaring light that's going to make you not be able to get back to sleep at night. And then hitting it a second time gives you your actual reading light. These are adjustable. They can move in any direction, so you can easily illuminate whatever book you're reading or whatever task you're working on. And we just love it. It's just a super convenient feature, and we use these almost every trip. Another thing that Grand Design has given us that I like are these overhead puck lights that control with the push of a button in the center. They are a little on the bright side, so we don't typically use them when we're sitting here in the theater chairs, but sometimes we will use these lights to light up the trailer instead of the overhead LED strips. In the kitchen area, they've provided us with some additional task lighting. There is a light on the stove that you can turn on if you're cooking there. There's also a feature that does the stove light and fan at the same time. And then over here is another one of those puck lights with the center button. This one I use a lot. It is great. It lights up this area quite well, so I'm really happy with this one. Now in the bathroom, the only thing we have in here for lighting are these two overhead lights that turn on. And unfortunately, the one that's near the shower is positioned outside the shower door. So you don't get any light in there at night. You can still see it comes through the shower curtain somewhat, but it actually is quite dim in there in the evening. And that's one thing I'm not crazy about. Okay, so those are the standard lights that came with this RV when we purchased it. Now I want to talk about some of the supplemental lighting that we've incorporated along the way. So one of the supplemental lights that I wanted to share with you guys that we started incorporating in here are these guys. I know a lot of other RVers are using these, and I have information I want to share about these today that I hope will help you in deciding whether or not this is something that you actually want to get for your RV. They are motion activated. There are two settings for that, one for daylight and one for nighttime motion. Another thing is they will be on all the time if you want them to. You would just turn on the switch and there's a setting that they're on continuously until the charge runs out. These are rechargeable, by the way. They also have different light settings. I'm going to cycle through those. So there's like a warm setting, a daylight setting, and then the traditional clinical LED setting. Now, these are something that there is a time and a place for them. I got them initially to test in my home kitchen. I can tell you right now, I don't like them there. I have these as under cabinet lights. The problem is that they go off independently of each other. So if you have somebody walking over on the one side of the kitchen, the light on there will come on, but the one on the opposite side will not. So yes, I could get around that by just keeping them on all the time, but then, you know, you're going to be charging them more often because the batteries will go out. I don't really know what I expected. I think the thing that would be nice is if there was a remote control to turn these on and off. This particular set does not have a remote. So if you want to turn them on, leave them on, what you have to do is they connect to your cabinet with magnets that come with this. So you stick the magnets on there and this connects to the magnets. The way that you would have to turn it on and off would be to pull this down, flip the switch on, and hang it right back up there again. It's workable if you're having people over to entertain and you want those under cabinet lights on the whole time. This is probably a good solution for you. I can tell you that I would not use the motion activated in the rig here at all, like under the cabinets or anything, with the exception of possibly in the bathroom on the night setting. That way you're walking in there at night. You don't have to hit that overhead light. Sometimes I accidentally bump the fan and then we've got a loud blast of fan noise that happens in the middle of the night. In that case, I think putting it on the underside of the medicine cabinet would be a great idea. That's probably where this guy is going. So it does have a place, I guess, in the RV on the underside of cabinets. But now let me show you where I'm actually using these in the RV that makes the most sense to me, and I'm actually very happy with them in these spaces. One of my favorite places to use these lights is right here in this cabinet. So if you have one of these, you know exactly what the issue is. They are narrow and deep cabinets, and they are dark and hard to see in, especially if you're trying to find something in the back. So I installed those lights in here, and I have to tell you, I have no problems at all finding what I'm looking for in this, and 100% would recommend it if you have a cabinet that's like this. And that's just a better shot. Now, over here, you'll see I mounted this one a little differently. It's because there is a bar that goes across the center of the top of this lower cabinet, and it just made it impossible to fit that in there. So I chose to put that one on the side. It still does a great job lighting it up. And then the one on the top just in the center works perfectly. Anytime you open it, it kicks on. Exactly what I was looking for. I also installed these in these closets that are on either side of the bed. Now, these work a little differently because in the other cabinet that I just showed you, I had them where as soon as you open the door, they notice the motion, they turn on right away. With these, I was not able to do that, and you'll see why here in a moment. So, we have these organizers hanging in here. We need this for our clothes. And some people like to use the rod with hangers, but you know what? You don't get to store as much, and honestly, your shirts sometimes drag on the bottom. It's just not my thing. So we chose to go with these instead. Now, you just saw it kick on there. Instead of putting it up here, like if I put it on the ceiling, the top of the cabinet, you would not be able to see because this all was very dark and shaded looking. It was very hard to see anything that was in this stuff. So what I did was I mounted it on the inside of the frame of the door, and you do have to put your hand in there and get it to go off. Unfortunately, opening the cabinet door is not enough to startle it into working. So that is something that's like a little bit irritating, but it works. We're able to at least see what's in our stuff. And if we have to get behind this, it does a great job of lighting up the back of the cabinet because these are also deep. They're curved because this is the front of the travel trailer, but they do go back in there pretty deep. And we have items stored on the other side of these. If you have an RV, you know space is at a premium and you need to take every square inch of whatever you can get your hands on. I just realized I missed showing you guys there's another one of these puck lights right here. Perfect for lighting up your stove surface. But that's not what I wanted to show you. I almost forgot. This is another one of those motion activated lights that are great for inside cabinets. When I'm camping, I like to have an adult beverage. And usually what we run into is when we get to the campsite and we're unpacking and setting everything up, you know, where are we going to keep our adult beverage supplies so that they're not taking up valuable counter space, of which there really isn't very much in here. So what I did was I created, this is my cabinet that we keep our adult beverage supplies in, and it has one of those motion activated lights. And it worked great this past weekend. It kept all that stuff off the counter. It was easy to access. It was just the perfect little place to tuck that stuff away. Now, some of the things that I would not waste my money on. The lights that have the flip switch on them, and I will add a picture on here somewhere. Some people like those. I found that when I was trying to use them in the storage cabinet, it was just awkward to have to reach in there and fumble around for a switch. Plus, they weren't really providing that much light throughout the cabinet. It was more of a concentrated light in a smaller area. And the other thing that really bothered me is that they were so temperamental. Sometimes you had to flip that switch back and forth several times before the wire made the connection on the inside, and it just was not worth the aggravation. I think I used those for one camping trip and they went right in the trash because they were garbage. Another one I wouldn't bother with are these types of puck lights that you press the center on. They're very different from the puck lights that Grand Design has provided us with, and they just don't provide as much light as I feel like I want in that area if I'm doing food prep or whatever. So I just wouldn't bother with it. The only reason it's still up there is because the adhesive tape that I used on the bottom works way too well and I can't get them off. This is another thing that I actually like using in the RV. These plug in, and I typically would put one of these. There's an outlet on the underside of the medicine cabinet in the bathroom. Plug one of these in there at night and it gives just a little bit of light in the bathroom, not too bright and obnoxious, just enough that you can move around easily and find your way when you need to. Let's talk about safety lighting in the RV. Now we do have a battery. So in theory, if we lost power at the campsite, the battery would kick on. But what if you have a complete failure of your entire electrical system in the camper? And what if it's pitch black? You're out in the middle of nowhere and there are no ambient lights coming even from the outside of your rig that could maybe help you be able to navigate around on the inside. You should always have emergency lighting at your fingertips. We keep flashlight in either side of the bed so that if something were to happen at night, we could access it easily. We also have these, and these are great. I don't know if you've ever seen them. These are battery powered. They also make rechargeable versions that you just lift the top and it gives you a nice bright light. So where I'm keeping these, this is a really weird storage space and I wasn't sure what to put in here. And then you can see it just works out really well for our emergency lanterns. I also have some cleaner sponges and a pair of cleaning gloves in there for whenever I need them. But yes, highly recommend those little lanterns. Those are fantastic, super bright, and last a long time as far as battery life goes. And up near our front door, I have this organizer that I hang on the back of the dinette booth. And we keep one of these in it. This is a rechargeable LED flashlight and we have one of them there, and then we do keep one under the bed as a backup. Once we get a hold of one flashlight, it lights up the area enough that you can dig more lighting out of those areas where you might not be able to reach in complete darkness. And I also wanted to show you guys down here, Grand Design installed a motion activated entry light, which is really nice because if something happens, like the dogs need to go out in the middle of the night, that picks up on any movement and will light things up. And I'm sorry about the dusty floor. We were just camping, so it needs cleaned. I almost forgot to show you guys, we have lights under the theater chairs, the front edge of the theater chairs that light this up. So if you need to find your way through at night, that's an option as well. One thing I want to say about these strip lights is that I don't know if we could replace these on our own. As I'm looking at them, I don't see an easy way to access them and pull them down. So I'm not sure if this is something that we could do on our own if we had to. That's it for the lighting tour in our RV. Next up, we're going to talk about things you need to keep in mind if you're planning on switching out the current light fixtures in your RV. Okay. Now, maybe after watching that, you're realizing that adding supplemental lighting still is not going to be enough in your situation. And maybe you just don't like those factory fixtures that are in your RV at all. The good news is that replacing interior RV lights is actually a pretty beginner-friendly DIY project. But because RVs use 12-volt DC electrical systems, there are a few important differences compared to household lighting projects. You can, in most cases, replace interior RV lightings, and it is a relatively simple 12-volt DC project that many RV owners can do themselves. But before you start removing those old fixtures, there are a few important things that you should know. First up, the 12-volt versus 120-volt systems. Most interior RV lighting runs on 12-volt DC battery power, not standard 120-volt household current. That means any replacement fixture or bulb that you install needs to be specifically designed for 12-volt RV use. Next, bulb upgrade versus full fixture replacement. If your existing light fixtures are still in good condition, you may not need to replace the entire fixture. Sometimes simply swapping older incandescent or fluorescent bulbs for LED bulbs can dramatically improve brightness while also reducing power consumption. But if you want a completely different look or better light distribution, full fixture replacements are widely available and usually pretty straightforward to install. One important thing to remember is that RV wiring color conventions are not always standardized. In many RVs, the colored wire, black, red, or sometimes striped, is positive, while the white wire is usually the negative or ground wire. But it's always smart to verify before you connect to anything, and you can typically find that information in your owner's manual. Let's talk about LED versus incandescent power consumption. One of the biggest advantages of upgrading your RV lighting to LEDs is dramatically lowering power consumption. Traditional incandescent bulbs use significantly more battery power, and they also generate a lot more heat. LEDs, on the other hand, are far more energy efficient. They stay cooler, and they are much better for boondocking or dry camping situations where conserving battery power really does matter. So even if you don't change the actual fixture itself, simply switching to LED bulbs can make a huge difference in both brightness and battery life. Now, before you start replacing those fixtures, there are a few common mistakes that can save you a lot of frustration if you just avoid them from the beginning. Mistake number one, mixing up polarity. Unlike many household AC systems, RV 12-volt systems are polarity sensitive. That means positive and negative wires need to be connected correctly, or the fixture may not work properly, and in some cases, you could even damage the light fixture. Generally speaking, the colored wire is positive and the white wire is negative or ground, but don't assume. If you're unsure, you want to verify with a multimeter before making any connections. Mistake number two is using household 120 volt fixtures. And this is a really important one. Not every residential light fixture is designed to operate safely on a 12 volt RV system. Some household fixtures may physically fit in your RV, but they are not intended for mobile applications, vibrations, or low voltage DC power. Always make sure any fixture or bulb that you install is specifically rated for 12 volt RV or marine use. Mistake number three, choosing LEDs that are too cool or too harsh. One thing that many RV owners discover quickly is that not all LED lighting looks the same. Some LEDs have very cool blue-toned color temperature that can make your RV feel very harsh or overly clinical, and that is those light strips that are overhead in our trailer, and especially at night. At night, it's a real problem. For living spaces, many people prefer warmer LEDs in the 2700K to 3000K range because they create a softer, more comfortable feel inside your camper. And let's briefly take a look at the step-by-step process when it comes to replacing your fixtures in your rig. Step one would be disconnect the power. Before doing anything, you want to disconnect your RV's 12 volt power system. You can do this using your battery disconnect switch or by pulling the appropriate fuse, or maybe even disconnecting shore power, depending on your setup. Step number two is to remove the lens cover. Most RV light covers either squeeze off from the sides or they gently pry off. I would recommend using a plastic trim tool if needed so that you don't crack the lens. Step number three, go ahead and remove the old fixture. Once the cover is off, remove the mounting screws and carefully pull the fixture down so that you can access the wiring that's behind it. Step four, cut and strip the wires. Next, you want to cut the wires that are going to the old fixture and strip back about a 1/2 inch of insulation so that you have clean copper exposed for the new connection. Step 5, go ahead and connect the new fixture. Match your positive wire to the positive and your negative wire to the negative. Then secure the connections using appropriately sized wire nuts or crimp connectors. And step 6 is mount and test. Tuck the wiring carefully back into the ceiling cavity, secure the new fixture, and then restore your power and test everything before you reinstall the cover. And honestly, replacing RV lighting is one of those upgrades that can completely change how your camper feels inside, especially if you spend time camping in the evening and during those bad weather days. I hope you found today's video to be helpful. If so, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.